C'est Alexandre Popov, l'inventeur de la radio.
C'est bon, c'est bon.
Ça c'est bon, c'est bon.
Patrie ou la mort?
Nous verrons.
Patrie ou la mort?
Nous verrons.
Patrie ou la mort?
Nous verrons.
Merci, camarades.
Merci beaucoup. Nous allons poursuivre.
La bombe nucléaire, vous avez tous fait atomistique, c'est sûr. On vous dit que c'est un neutron qui frappe un noyau, qui se divise, ça libère de l'énergie. On connaît l'équation, mais comment enrichir même pour changer d'isotope? Comment enrichir? Comment le faire pratiquement? Profitez donc apprendre, parce que nous avons besoin de vous pour développer nos pays.
Vive le président.
Je pense qu'on dit l'Afrique est le berceau de l'humanité, mais l'Afrique a beaucoup de retard à rattraper. Ce n'est pas impossible, c'est bien possible. Vous vivez ici, vous voyez comme moi tout ce que vous voyez. Et c'est bien possible chez nous aussi. Il faut croire, il faut travailler. Et je vous exhorte à être des citoyens modèles ici, à respecter les règles et les lois du pays qui vous accueille, à être des modèles d'intégrité, à être solidaires, à être des modèles d'Africains qu'on a envie de voir dehors. La discipline et l'ordre que vous voyez ici, vous devez pouvoir montrer plus. Donc, soyez solidaires, apprenez bien et l'essentiel. Nous avons besoin de vous et nous espérons que très bientôt, vous viendrez donc créer ce dont nous rêvons pour les autres générations. Apprendre à ces générations ce que vous avez appris pour qu'ils soient meilleurs que vous. Tout le monde souhaite que les générations à venir soient meilleures que nous. Et je compte sur vous pour que vous puissiez apprendre et venir transmettre le savoir.
Excellence, Monsieur le Président du Faso, chef de l'État, Messieurs les ministres ici présents, distinguées personnalités, Mesdames, Messieurs.
Ваше превосходительство, господин президент Буркина Фасо, Ваше превосходительство, господа министры.
C'est une préoccupation.
Nor is a man bred for banquet halls and handshakes. I do not come to you speaking the rehearsed language of polished politics. I come to you as a soldier of my people, as a guardian of a wounded land, as a son of a continent that has carried the cross of the world, yet has never worn its crown. My name is Captain Ibrahim Traore, President of Burkina Faso, and today I speak not only for the 22 million souls in my nation, but for a continent whose stories have been twisted, whose pain has been ignored, and whose dignity has been repeatedly auctioned off at the altar of foreign interests. Africa is not a beggar. Africa is not a battlefield. Africa is not your experiment, your puppet, your warehouse of raw materials. Africa is rising not to kneel, but to stand. And today I say before this great assembly of nations, Africa will not kneel, one on the false generosity of global politics. For decades you've sent us aid with one hand while extracting our lifeblood with the other. You build wells in our villages while your corporations drain our rivers. You donate vaccines yet patent the cures. You speak of climate action yet continue to fund the very forces that burn our forests and dry our lakes. What kind of generosity is this? The kind that feeds the mouth but silences the voice. The kind that keeps a man alive just enough to keep him dependent. We are not blind to this hypocrisy. Let me be clear, we are not ungrateful for sincere humanitarian assistance, but we reject a global order that disguises exploitation as partnership. We reject financial institutions that lend with one hand and steal sovereignty with the other. Africa no longer wants charity. We want justice. We want control over our own destinies. Too on the chains of colonialism and its modern descendants. Our wounds did not begin with us. They were inherited legacies of an empire-building madness that saw us not as humans, but chiefs as cargo laboratories. My ancestors were not consulted when maps were drawn with rulers and compasses in Berlin. The borders of Burkina Faso, like those of many African nations, were not carved by our ancestors, but by men who had never stepped foot on our soil, who knew nothing about languages, our tribes, or our spirits. Today, colonialism has a new face. It wears suits, it hosts forums, it signs contracts in Geneva and Paris and Washington. But it still takes without consent, it still dictates instead of dialogues, it still silences instead of listening. If you want to talk about peace, then let's begin by unlearning the arrogance that peace is something only you can teach us. 3. On resource exploitation and the myth of development. They call us developing as if the theft of centuries did not set us back, as if the gold from our lands, the diamonds from our rivers, the oil beneath our feet did not build the very skyscrapers in which this assembly sits. Let us speak plainly. Burkina Faso is rich, Africa is rich in minerals and culture and wisdom and youth. But you have taught us to measure richness in GDP and export value. You call it development when a foreign company owns 90% of a gold mine on our land. You call it progress when your security forces guard cobalt mines but not our children's schools. That is not progress, that is piracy with legal documents. From now on, we will define development on our own terms. Development that puts children in classrooms, not minerals on cargo ships. Development that respects the land, the people, and the soul of a nation. 4. On sovereignty and interference. Why is it that when an African nation makes independent choices, we are called unstable? Why is it that when we seek military cooperation outside the colonial sphere, we are labeled a threat? Burkina Faso has chosen to walk a path of sovereignty that is not a threat to peace. It is a declaration that has chosen to walk a path of sovereignty that is not a threat to peace. It is a declaration of adulthood. We are no longer under your guardianship. We are no longer your junior partners in diplomacy. We are a free people. If a nation chooses partners that respect it rather than exploit it, that is not rebellion. That is wisdom. Let it be known, no foreign power will dictate the alliances of Burkina Faso. We will build relations based on mutual respect, not historical guilt or present-day intimidation on terrorism and manufacture wars. You ask why there is violence in the Sahel. You ask why our youth take up arms. But you do not ask who benefits when our mines are guarded by private mercenaries, while our villages are left vulnerable. You do not ask how weapons arrive in deserts that produce no steel. You do not ask why peacekeeping never seems to end the war. The truth is, many of the so-called solutions to African security problems are merely business models. Endless conflict has become a market, and African suffering has become a subscription-based service. Burkina Faso has decided to break that cycle. We will fight terror, but not with dependency. We will secure our nation not with foreign dictates, but with national dignity. 6. On migration and human dignity. We do not want our youth drowning in the Mediterranean. We do not want our brightest minds fleeing to countries that once called us savages. We do not want remittances. We want reasons for our people to stay. Why do our youth flee? Not because we lack beauty, but because we are made to lack opportunity. Not because we hate our land, but because our land is treated as someone else's property. Migration is not a crisis, it is a symptom of wars we did not start, of loans we did not need, of a world order that tells our youth their only value lies outside their own homes. The solution is not border fences. The solution is justice. For 7. On Africa's place in the world. Africa is not a mistake to be fixed. Africa is not a failed continent. Africa is the womb of the world, the cradle of civilization, the keeper of tomorrow's hope. We have been made invisible in global decisions that affect us deeply. At the UN Security Council, Africa with 54 sovereign nations has no permanent seat. What justice is this? You call it balance, we call it betrayal of. You speak of democracy, yet uphold a global structure where the powerful few veto the dreams of the many. We will no longer whisper in rooms where we deserve to speak with full voice. Aid on faith and spiritual dignity. We are a spiritual people. Before your cathedrals, our ancestors sang to the sky. Before your missionaries, we knew the language of the rivers and the laws of the sacred forest. Christianity came, Islam came, and we received them not as slaves but as seekers. But now we ask, will the church and the mosque stand with us, truly with us, when all people are displaced by greed, mosque as globalization? Will your pulpits echo our cries or only repeat the songs of the powerful? Faith, too, must be decolonized and must walk with the poor, not the privileged. 9, on unity among African nations. This is not a speech from one country. This is the stirring of a continent. You see Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso forming a new bond. You fear our unity. Why? Because it threatens the myth that Africa can only rise under your supervision. We are uniting not to wage war, but to wage dignity. To pool our courage, to share strength. To protect each other when the world turns its back. To pool our courage, to share strength. To protect each other when the world turns its back. To protect each other when the world turns its back. Pan-Africanism is not a dream. It is our lifeline, and we will build it stone by stone, heart by heart, with or without your approval. 10, to the youth of Africa. To the young boy selling oranges by the roadside. To the girl who walks 10 kilometers to attend school. To the child whose only toy is a stone but who dreams of stars. You are the reason we fight. Do not believe the lie that your continent is cursed. You are the blessing. Do not envy foreign passports. Be proud of your name, your land, your roots. The world may not applaud you now, but the future will speak your name in honor. 11 final words we will not kneel. I do not come to declare war, I come to declare will. So we will not kneel to fear. We will not kneel to foreign banks. We will not kneel to outdated empires masquerading as friends. Africa is not asking for a seat at your table.
Russian state scholarship for Burkinabe nationals was more than doubled, and this year we are ready to receive 27 more students from your country at the state's expense, and in total more than 3,500 Burkinabe received higher education in Russia. Cultural and humanitarian ties also play an important part, and it is assisted by the Russian house that is operating in Ouagadougou since 2024. In particular, they are teaching Russian language there. There is a great potential in cooperation in the field of healthcare and sanitary regulations. Recently, on April 24-25, Madam Popova visited Ouagadougou and discussed the development of scientific and research infrastructure and training of personnel. We also prioritize humanitarian support for Burkina Faso. Last year, we allocated 25,000 tons of wheat free of charge, and this month we are going to send a large supply of other food products to Ouagadougou. We appreciate the support from Burkina Faso and many international platforms, including the UN and other multilateral platforms. A useful format of cooperation is the consultations between Russia and Sahel States Confederation. April this year, such a session was held in Moscow with foreign ministers. There are good prospects in many areas, and we will have a chance to discuss some of them today. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much. Congratulations. and its allies. Some 30,000 Burkinabe fought with the anti-Hitler coalition forces under the guidance, under the leadership of legendary Frenchman Charles de Gaulle. And now we are united by our joint goal to fight against terrorism and extremism, and we will continue to support the Republic and restoring constitutional and lawful order, to fight against unlawful factions that are still operating in some parts of Burkina Faso. In recent years, we have accomplished great progress in mutually beneficial cooperation in various fields. In the end of 2023, after more than 30 years of hiatus, the embassy of Russia in Ouagadougou was turned operational again, and the economic operation is also important, even if trade is modest. It's growing, which is a good trend, and we need to preserve it. And we will continue to work together on further strengthening our economic ties and diversify further our trade cooperations. And it was useful to hold economic days of Burkina Faso in Russia that were held in 2024. And it was attended by the high-level Burkinabe delegation led by the Deputy Prime Minister, and we are working now on establishing intergovernmental commission. We have already established a working